Strolling around Galway city and locale, you're bound to come across the hand of Michael Keaney in diverse places. The museum, a precursor of the modern Galway Museum at Spanish Arch, the weighing crane, the water wheel on the Badira River, the lock gates along the Eglinton Canal, the pedestrian bridge at Bowling Green, even a weather-beaten carved wooden salmon leaping the Corrib along waterside, all bear his signature. Travel further afield and you may explore Terryland Castle, the Dyke Road Waterworks and peaceful Barna and Merlin Woods. All these and more you can experience today, thanks to the commitment and passion of retired Galway Corporation engineer Michael Keaney. Vying for Michael's solicitous care and protection is the Dillon family photo house on the Clonbrock estate near the village of Ahaskra. But it is a sturdy manor house on the outskirts of Athenry that rules his head and his heart in equal measure. Castle Ellen House, one of the three grand houses built by the Lambert family, has been the focus of Michael's efforts and time for nearly 50 years. Michael has been described as a visionary and a heritage protector. Others may occasionally call him a dreamer, but Michael remains true to his calling. It is the way he is.
The station in Blenties, Donegal. Well, he was from Clonbor, near Clonbor, and my mother was from Longford. So I was born in Longford. I left Donegal. I could have been a year old or 2 years old. I don't know. No memories whatsoever. After Donegal, my father got transferred to Oughterard, and I spent my younger childhood days there. Went to primary school there, to the convent the first year or two, and then we went across to the primary school, the boys' school, and then later then moved into Galway, and I could have been 6 or 7 at that stage. After Donegal, then my father he was trying to get back to Galway. This is the place to go at that time. Great opportunity for education. So we came back to Galway and rented a house, an old house, out in Lennyboy Gardens, in near Salt Hill, and then later moved on to Nuns Island. It was a place, the centre of things, schools and shopping, and it's understandable like that. The parents wanted to be near education and a good place to grow up. Good place. I went to the Bishop School, which was a few doors from my house, and then when I came to about 11, I transferred to the secondary school. It was called St. Joseph's at that time, but now it's called the Bish, from the Bishop School across the road. I was never fond of school. The most exciting time I found at school is at 3 o'clock in the evening. I hear the bell going and it's over. 16, yeah. That's right, I should probably be at the age of about 16, yeah. Myself and this other John O'D, the year before we went to Paris, we hitchhiked around Ireland and took by chance got a lift across from Belfast to Ayrshire in Scotland on a coal boat, and got back again on another coal boat, and the following year then we took a notion to hitchhike to Paris. Never told anybody, and I'd been working for 10 weeks filling petrol into cars, and I got £1 a week and 10 shillings tips. So I had £15 saved for the summer, and we headed off. We got no free lift across from Ireland to England or from England to France, but we hitchhiked all the way. Yeah, well, we left our hostel in the map in a car, and we didn't know where the hostels were, so we slept out under the Eiffel Tower on a park seat, and then in the middle of the night this gendarme came along and said, "You cannot sleep here." So we went to sleep under the hedges, and we could see the light, navigation light on top of the Eiffel Tower all night, well, until we went to sleep. Well, they knew we were hitchhiking, but they never knew where we went. Yeah. And it was only about 3 months later I was out in the bog with my father, and I broke the news to him about having gone to Paris, and he was kind of delighted that they had the enterprise to do it. Myself and John, like, and also. Well, she would, yeah. I don't know what happened, you know. She always was encouraging us to get outside and be doing things and be independent, and she was a housewife rearing 6 kids, and she'd be bored out of her mind with that, and she'd have preferred to have been out doing what I'm doing now, out in the middle of nowhere, in the wild, in the woods, and restoring houses. But that's the way things happen. There's three girls ahead of me, and like most Irish families would love to have a son. So they kept going until they had a son. and I was the golden boy at the time then, and later then I had a brother later on, and a sister. I'd always a great interest in sort of structures and machines, and rather than being an academic bookworm, that's the type I was, like, and at one stage then, when they were carrying out survey work for the Corb drainage scheme with this engineer surveyor from Dublin, Mr. St. John, and he was staying in our house for when he was in Galway, and I see them going off in the morning with the level and tripod and ranging rods, and he'd be picked up in a jeep or something. So that must have had some kind of influence on me as well, you know. So I was good to myself, but I was inclined to be kicking the traces, you know. I spent a lot of my time on subjects that I enjoyed, and I could see some use in them, and other ones then I just tolerate them, you know. So, and at that time, back in 1956, 57, there had been two big theatres, Physics Hall and the Greek Hall, and there could be over 100 students in the theatre, and then some technician would come in during the lecture, and he'd mark, he had numbers on the seats, and if you're absent, you got a black mark. So once he'd gone, now and again I used to slip out and across down to Mac Craven's coffee shop, and I was inclined to be breaking rules and, you know, going to the flow. And after graduation, 1958, there was about 35 students, about 35 graduates, and there was a recession since the end of the last war, you know, and most of us finished up in London. So I went to a public works exhibition in Earl's Court, and I'd be looking around for opportunities for work and whatever, like, you know, and I got fixed up in a job with the dredging company in London, and I was working within 3 days in London, and I wasn't out of work a day since. Thank God. But, in London, I was with a dredging company, Tilbury Contracting and Dredging Company, and we'd be doing a lot of survey work on the Thames in connection with dredging, and it was sort of interesting to a point, but then I got an opportunity to go up to Birmingham with this Irish subcontractor, and which I enjoyed thoroughly, and then I got notions then of starting a bit of a business, and made a start, but I didn't succeed at it. After Birmingham, then I saw an advertisement in the Irish papers where the ESB, this 1962, where the ESB were looking for engineers, and the next day I got a telegram to come into in Dublin, and expensively paid. And I was in Birmingham at the time, so it was probably the first commercial flight I ever made from Birmingham to Dublin. So I got into Dublin and went for the interview, and I got the post in Civil Works Ireland of Crusher, and met my sister then for lunch in the Metropole or Cleary's in Dublin, and we're chatting away, and she was telling me about my father. I thought he had some slight impairment, but she told me he had cancer. Quite serious, and I got a bit of a shock. And he lived for 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah, he was going down and down and down. Sad, very sad. And he was still in the Guards at the time. And he must have been, he was 61, I think, yeah. I got back to Ireland then. I spent almost all of my life, working life in Ireland, in Galway, Later on, I sort of put the pen to paper and asked her to marry me. posted the letter at Coos Corner and dropped it off, but 3 or 4 days later I got a telephone call from her in London, and saying she'd accept, and my heart started thumping with excitement. After getting married, we lived for a while with my mother, and we went into a flat down in over Monroe's. Then later, my aunt had a cottage in Castlegar, and she gave us a cottage. And in the meantime, I was building a house in Ballyvan. It took me a long time, obviously a year and a half to build it, and direct labour, and the house is still there, and the debt nailed on it now. There's high rise both sides of the house, and it'll be flattened in the next 6 months. So. Five. One boy and 4 girls. On Forest Forborough, we're doing some survey of the water supply in Bahrain, and they were trying to get a team together to put some structure in the water supply, administration, engineering problems, So there's about 10 engineers mostly from Galway, went out there. We was there for a year and a half, and I went out there for 2 weeks ahead of Margaret, and then she brought out the five children on her own. She was the talk of the place for a while, and so it was a marvellous opportunity and experience. It is a totally different culture shock, and we found the Bahraini people to be great and very sincere, and Sad, very sad leaving it, you know.
Did you
I bought a 4x4 Daihatsu Jeep there, and brand new, with the winch, and not the winch happened to be on it anyway. So I drove back then from Bahrain to Galway. It took about 6 weeks. I went from I brought 2 children for a start from Bahrain to Saudi Arabia, and with a charter a Joe with the Jeep up on top, and tied down with ropes, and I was scared that it would go overboard with all my collectibles inside it. So we got to Saudi Arabia then, and we drove across Saudi Arabia 3 days into Jordan, Syria, and we rendezvoused in Damascus, and the hotel we were supposed to meet in we couldn't locate it, so Margaret flew with the kids to Kuwait and into Damascus through a terrible storm, and they were scared. Anyway, the next morning we made inquiries about where they might be, and we found them. Like, so it was a very, very emotional reunion. We drove from Damascus to Latakia, and got the ferry from altogether. We got the ferry from Latakia to Cyprus, to Piraeus in Athens, and then Margaret flew off back to Ireland with 4 of the children, and I took Groina with me for the long way around across Italy down to Palermo, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Spain, Madrid, Bordeaux, Le Havre, all the way down to back to Rosselair. Got back to Rosselair, then there was a fuel crisis, and we had to get, after 6 weeks travelling, we were out of money and out of fuel. So I went to the bank in Rosselair, and they gave me something like €50 or whatever, and we got to Galway. In the meantime, then my mother had died, I think the night we were in Damascus, and I didn't know about it until I got to Claren Bridge in Galway. She was 3 or 4 weeks buried before I knew about it. So it was, but life goes on anyway, and great Margaret and the great children, they all gave great enrichment in life. Well, I worked in almost all the different sections, you know, and some of them were very, say, boring, and more of them were very exciting. And I was always trying to identify things of items of interest. You know, in the local authority, you're inundated with paperwork and queries and letters and administration, like, and it's always very important to be able to pick out what's important in Galway, to my mind. I've a very active mind, and the body often can't keep up, like, you know. But I seem to concentrate on things that just come to me. There's no logic attached to it. It's just the way I am, and I get my messages from this, and I translate them as best I can into reality. What I got involved in, like with this house, and When I took it over in 1974, I couldn't imagine I'd be sitting down here now a long time later, you see, and I'd have great visions for the house. I'd have great visions for the countryside, the landscape, and I'd have very strong visions on Galway. And it's something that I was involved in most of my life, engineering life in Galway, carrying out different roles, and sometimes very, very boring, and but I've had a fair amount of freedom in Galway, and I'm very grateful to my peers and the members of the corporation. They're a great bunch of people, and most of them. And Galway at one stage was called Ballina, the town of the streams. Proliferation of waterways that are second to none in Europe that I know of, and just above the town itself, you've got this quiet river with this dike built and the weir, and then all of a sudden then you have this mad cascade for a few hundred metres from the river down to the Claddagh. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and that's continuously changing then with the tide, says the tide and the rainfall, and it's never the same twice, and it costs nothing to run. It's just there, and a big source of energy back in the turn of around the 1900s. They took 2,500 horsepower off the river, harnessed it for breweries and distilleries and much more. And but the amenity value of that now is second to none. And I think that it'll be in all our interests, for the city fathers to appreciate the value of that, and to make recommendations to control the amount of traffic that's destroying our city. I don't read papers normally. I have no routine. I just sort of I have to light the fire now and again, and in the course of doing that, then I flick through the papers before burning it, and I come across this wonderful article by Ronnie O'Gorman and Tom Keaney. It's been in every week for years and years and years, and I must have 200 or 300 of these pages someplace around the house. I always pick them out, and it gives me great heart. It keeps my morale going, and then also there was this wonderful publication by Giuseppe Pronti I never met, and Paul Walsh. Paul Walsh worked for me down in the museum in Galway one time, probably 10 shillings a day or something. But a wonderful guy, and deserves great credit for producing this booklet and maps. It's just unbelievable. It can be bought for, I think, €38, and it will be cheap at 5,000 euros. And 1651, Duke of Lorraine's map. He was so proud of the place that he got this map produced to show his colleagues in Europe about this city-state in Ireland since 1484, and we have that. We have remnants of that, lucky enough. And the solution is it's not an engineering solution. It's a question of every man, woman and child in the urban area to make some sacrifice to curtail this madness of driving here and driving there, and I just love to get people come on board that kind of thinking. It's so logical and obvious and so simple. There's no big deal with regard to financing it. Like it's only minimal controls on the waterways, and it could be the talking place of Europe. Come out here to this. It's not a comfort zone out here. It's a workhouse. And it's therapeutic to me because I love what I do, and once I come in those gates, I'm going back 200 years. Lifestyle, it's pretty untouched since in that period of time, with the avenue and the front and back avenue and the old house and the mature trees and all the wildlife out here. It's just incredible. Oh, it's very true, and say if you like what you're doing, you're well paid, and it's terrible to see everybody scrambling for more and more and more. Well, I just said people think about their own bodies, their bodies and their mind, and get active and just. Walk and cycle and run, and swim and all these simple things. I'm a great advocate of that. Tá ansimagam sa gaeilge agus is just goil na daoine óga ag dul gaelscoilna agus na best daoine country and culture sé another tábhachtach ná an Teangain cosúla galibh an animatá a bhí ar an áisiúla bháin an bailín srofán agus nuair a tháinig na scoláirí an seo chuir siad an Galviense ladan ceapam so it's just bhfuil na daoine óga ag fór an Gaeilge tá sé tábhachtach dún héin na daoine tá pí a Gaeilge acu cant le chéile agus leis na páirtí freisin. I think it would be a great place of reconciliation for people in the country with different attitudes and different political groups. And Sir Carson's mother was born here, and Carson is further north in Ireland, and he was standing up on a plinth in front of Strommer Castle, and I'd love to see some of these loyal Irishmen and unionists coming down here and just meeting the local people and building on the foundation our long history and heritage, and sharing a little group of both sides of the divide. And you can reflect on the past, but not be living in the past. So it's to be an aspiration of mine. I do everything I can. That's all I can do.